Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday morning. And in case you don't know, I am Renee with Redesign by Renee Co. And this morning I wanted to just pop on here real quick and talk to you about paint pours because I love paint pours. They are my happy place. And I did, good morning, Margie. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm gonna do my best to sit forward a little bit further so I can see you. So this morning I wanted to talk to you about two things. And the first is gonna be paint pours. So last week when I was taking a little bit of time off, good morning, Winky. I do paint pours mostly for fun. Those, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but paint pours are my absolute happy place. And I love them. And I still have not figured out why, because when you're doing paint pours, you don't have a whole lot of control. And I really like to control a lot of things, but in paint pours, you don't have a whole lot of control. So I'm not exactly sure why I love them so much, but I absolutely love to do paint pours. It's just, it puts me in my absolute happy place. So I had a bunch of these little trays. I don't know if you can see all these trays, and I'll show you them in just a minute. But I had a whole bunch of these little wooden trays. And so I decided to play around and try a couple different techniques for pouring them. And then I did cover them with resin yesterday. And then I'll also show you how I'm applying my absolutely favorite black wax over top of the paint. So to prep these pieces, what I did was, I'm sticking on my table. What I did to prep these pieces was I painted them an entire coat in the Country Chic Licorice. I painted the entire tray. I didn't paint the bottoms yet, but I painted the base, and then I painted the whole outside and inside of this with the licorice. And then for the inside, I used the Country Chic Licorice, Country Chic Simplicity, and then I used a gold that I had on hand that was like just like a Walmart, something that I had purchased in a gold, and it was really pretty color. So I wanted to try some new colors because I haven't done this color combination before, but I was really looking for kind of like a new look, and I'm glad I did because I'm absolutely loving the way that these came out. So for the first pour that I'm going to show you, I used what is considered a dirty pour for this paint pour. A dirty pour is when I use Floetrol with my paint as the medium to thin it out. It does not dilute the color, but it thins it out enough. And there's other mediums that you can use. This is just the medium that I used for this particular thing. And you can buy the Floetrol at any one of your hardware stores. And so I mixed the Simplicity with the Floetrol, the Licorice with the Floetrol. Good morning, Lynn. And I also mixed the gold with the Floetrol. And I use about probably a 50-50 mix of Floetrol to paint. Sometimes whites tend to be a little bit thicker, so I usually add a little bit more of whatever medium I'm using for the pour, and I usually thin that one out a little bit more because the whites on any paint line I've ever tried tend to be a little bit thicker. So I usually add a little bit more Floetrol to that. So the first pour that I'm going to show you is called a dirty pour, and I don't know if you can see this. It's kind of shiny now because I added resin to it, but this is what you call a dirty pour. And how you do a dirty pour, and I will do some more videos on this. I've done some videos in the past, but to get, you can maybe see, that's pretty good. I do love this one. So for a dirty pour, how you accomplish this is, and these are just cheap little wood trays. I think this says it was like $1.99 or something like that, but I actually bought a whole bunch of these from a local thrift store. I don't know if you can see that. So for the dirty pour, how you accomplish that look is you mix your individual colors, and then you take one central clean container and you pour your colors in one at a time. So I usually start with the white, and then I will add the black, and then I add just a little bit at a time, and then I'll come back and then I'll add like a second. Good morning, Lori. Then I'll add like a second. Good morning. I'll add, so I keep doing that, adding the colors until I get, enough that I know will cover that particular piece. So that's how I do a dirty pour. And then when you get the right, the proper amount of paint in there, and you really have to gauge that by eye and I will do some more videos on this. These I did for playing, and when I'm playing, I'm usually not looking presentable in any possible way. You know, when I play and I'm doing painting, I'm definitely not looking, you don't want to see me when I'm in my best doing my playing. So this one is a dirty pour, and this one is just, you pour the colors one at a time into the cup, alternating the colors, and I usually will add the colors. Good morning, Lori. I will usually add the colors about probably 4 times. So I'll go white, black, gold, white, black, gold, white, black, gold, white, black, gold. Just a small amount of each till you build up enough to cover whatever. So if you're doing something small, you would maybe need to do that 3 times instead of 4. For the bigger trays, I actually did a different technique for those bigger trays. Let me show you this. The reason that I wanted to do, well, first of all, I had never done this particular technique. Yes, Lori, that is exactly what I use. I use Floetrol. For this particular one, I've used many different things. Sometimes I'll add a top coat as my medium, but for these, I added Floetrol as my medium, my pouring medium, and then I covered these with resin after they completely dried, these trays. So I wanted to try out a new pouring method that I had not tried before, just because, you know, I was having fun playing. So this one, I don't know if I can get the light to be right. If you can see, so this one, I actually just poured them in a line. Actually, this one, so this one I actually poured in a line. I poured white, black, gold, and I poured them in a row, which is, I don't know what you call that pour. I'm sure there's a name for it, and I just don't know what the name is. And then I manipulated my board to get those to run together. So if you were wanting to, sorry, just got Floetrol in today, and I'm excited to try this. What resin are you using to cover it? Oh, thank you very much, Lori. I use Pro Marine. I know there's several of them on the market out there, but I use Pro Marine because that's just what I started using. Actually, a neighbor of mine had a yard sale and had a few gallons of it available. And so she was selling it at a yard sale because she was going to do countertops or something. And so that's how I ended up buying it for the first time. And I blew through that pretty fast. So now I buy it right straight from the company. And I buy it by the gallon because I do use a lot of resin. But that's the one I like. I like the way that it dries. Good morning, Bridget. I love the way that it dries. It dries amazing. It's easy to work with. Hold on. How do you spell that? Pro Marine. I will put a link up in the, when I finish doing the live, I'll put a link up in there for the Pro Marine. I'm pretty sure, and I don't have the jugs in here with me. It's Pro Marine epoxy resin. And I'll attach a link when I'm done doing the live so that you can actually just go. I don't have any affiliate or anything else with that company. That's just that's just what I prefer to use. A lot of people like to use the Illuminlight. That's a good one too, I've heard. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'll definitely attach that link when I'm done. It's just one of my favorite ones to use just because that's what I started using. I'm a creature of habit, so if I find something that I love, I usually just kind of stick with it. But so this technique, and also if you did not want these colors to merge together as much as I did, I really was just playing and wanted to, you know, just see what it would do because it was a new style of pour that I hadn't done before. You could just you could create the look you want by pouring in certain areas and just not manipulating as much as I did. I really manipulated my board around to get them to move together. And because I really wanted this just really Art Deco-y kind of look. That's what I was going for. So this one, I poured the lines this way. And good morning, Frances. And you can see this one, if you can see, I went this way. So you can do any technique. Thank you very much, Lori. I was really impressed with how they turned out. You know, you never know when you're doing a pour what they're gonna do. They kind of have a mind of their own, but I was doing these just for fun, and I'm gonna end up selling them in my space. But I'm loving them. I'm loving the colors together. I love how they each are so crisp. When you do a dirty pour, let me go back to that one real quick. When you do a dirty pour, as you can see, some of the colors will blend together and give you other colors. Like there's actually in this one, when you do a dirty pour, there's actually grays, and even some browns where the gold mixes with the white and it creates all this other delicious color. Good morning, Anne. It does, I do love both styles very, very much because I do think they both have great benefits. And I'll show you on this other bigger piece that I did too. Thank you. I do love these colors. They definitely pop against each other, which is exactly the look that I was going for. I wanted each color to be bold and independent of each other. And when I tried that new technique of a pour, this one, the dirty pour, I do love this one too. It's probably hard to tell. The only thing I've noticed about dirty pours too is that it's really hard to grasp. I don't know if you can actually see. Let me see here. If you can see all the different, you see how you get multiple colors coming through of colors that I didn't even use? Because when they mesh together, some of them actually combine together. So there's grays and browns and a whole bunch of different colors that come out of there. Where on this one, I did not do a dirty pour, and they kind of, good morning, Susan and Lynn. They did not merge together. And actually, I'm gonna try to do this technique on a piece of furniture too, because I absolutely love how they did not intertwine really. They really kept their own independent colors, and they did not really mesh together very much. And this final one, they did merge together just a little bit. I'm loving this one too, by the way. But if you can see this one, it kind of has the best of both worlds. Good morning, Sherry. If you can see here, this is kind of where it ended up looking kind of like a dirty pour. And up here, but the rest of it is still crisp and clean. And you can tell that I kind of, this one I manipulated a lot more, so some of the colors did merge together. They did merge a little bit more than, as you can see, like this one where everything is just absolutely crisp and clean. What is the second technique called? Lynn, I do not know what the second technique is called. I'm sure there's probably a name for it. I don't know the name of this one. I would say it's a clean pour. I don't know if the other one is called a dirty pour. So let's just, for the sake of this video, call it a clean pour. This particular one, I literally just added color, one color, added another color in lines, and then manipulated my board to get them to come together. So they didn't actually blend together. They each independently kept their colors, but they didn't like blend together like on a dirty pour, how the colors kind of mesh together and create multiple levels of color. How do you keep the paint pour from getting on the sides of the tray? So good morning, Jane, good morning. Jane is right here from the good old WP where I'm from. So when I'm doing these pours, I'm very careful to not let it get up the sides. And how do I do that is I manipulate my surface, keeping it moving to just let it barely touch the sides, because you don't want it to go all the way up your sides. Good morning, Teresa. Teresa is my creative bestie. She just popped on. She has NTS Design Co. Check her out. So when I'm doing the paint pours, I'm very careful, and I do manipulate when I'm putting the resin on top of it too. I let the resin flow. Well, hello, Francis from the UK. So I'm very careful to not get it up too high, because then you have to either sand it off or cover it. There's a lot of things. So I just manipulate it enough, and I let the paint flow just enough to where it touches the edge, and then I usually start slowly, and this is a slow process. I did notice with the paint, I did thin it down a little bit more because it wasn't moving as fast, but it's a slow process when you're doing a paint pour. Good morning, Christine. It's a slow process when you're doing a paint pour, because you literally just have to sit and wait and just let it do its thing. Thank you, Teresa. Oh, that's awesome, Lynn. Lynn is gonna try her first resin this week. You're gonna love resin. So one of the keys that I learned about resin is that it likes you to pay attention to it. It's one of those high maintenance kind of gals, and I'm not the queen of resin. Our friend Rosie with Brush Restoration by Rosie is the queen of resin. I just kind of play with resin. But one of the things I've noticed about resin is that after you first pour it, you want to use a heat gun or hair dryer or something like that. Good morning, Christine. So the thing you want to do is I set a timer for every 15 minutes for up to an hour, and I go back and check my piece and run a heat gun over it again when I'm doing resin. That way you're gonna catch any air bubbles, because the things about resin is air bubbles will come out as the resin starts to settle and cure, and you wanna catch those air bubbles before it fully has 100% chance to cure. So I literally set a timer and check my pieces every 15 minutes. And after the hour is up, then I'm done. I just check it like the next day, because there's nothing I can do about it at that point. So worried if my basement will be warm enough. I have to wait until the temperatures are fully good here, enough for it to cure, because resin is paint pours will dry, they just take days longer. But resin is very particular, and if you don't have the proper temperatures, then, hey Jordan, if you don't have the proper temperatures, your resin will not set right. So temperature is very vital when you're using resin. I don't know exactly what temperature it's supposed to be, but I think it's somewhere in 50 degrees or above, and I could be off on that, but you have to make sure that it's not too cold, wet. There's so many factors that going into using resin, but there's, depends on which resin you're using, but they all have their own individual requirements of temp requirements, humidity requirements, and there's so many factors that go into using the resin that, and I'm definitely not a resin expert, but you have definitely temperature. And so when my garage shop gets way too cold, I usually run a heater in there. Well, you cannot have a lot of dust when you're using resin, so you can't have anything blowing. That's why I use a heat gun instead of a hair dryer. If you use a hair dryer, use it on a very low setting, because dust is something you don't want to end up in your resin. Because if you have a bunch of dust particles in your resin, it'll show up when you finish doing the resin. You want your resin to finish like it's glass, like it looks like it was coated with glass. So, like I said, I'm not the expert, but I'm trying. So, again, this is what you would call a clean pour, I guess. That's what we're gonna call it today. And you can see that I just added different colors to get them. I really wanted this look. I wanted just clean, crisp differences between each and every single. I wanted them to merge together, but I did not want them to actually blend together. So, oh, you're welcome, Lan. You're welcome. I'm definitely not the expert, but I'm trying to try out new things. I think I'm gonna do this particular type of pour. Thank you, Teresa. I'm gonna try this pour on top of a dresser, I think. I might even use these colors, because I'm absolutely loving this technique. And I'm sure somebody else has mastered it and has a name for it. I just am not familiar with that name. I was just playing around. But if you look at how crisp and clean every line is, and these colors just are so vibrant, hitting off of each other, they're just absolutely amazing. So this is a pours. Thank you, Teresa. These are the, we're gonna call this a clean pour. This is a clean pour. This is a dirty pour. Sorry, that light. This is a dirty pour where everything kind of meshes together a little bit and creates a whole lot more cells. And I did notice when I did this technique, it did not create a lot of cells either. That was another thing. I like cells on certain pieces, but I really wanted something crisp and clean on these pieces. And I think I got the look that I was actually going for with these. Let's see. Even though I wrapped my table in plastic, pour went down the table side. That is very common. I have used the, the peel and stick that you can get from your grocery store. I have wrapped, so Lynn had done a paint pour and she had wrapped it, and she still got paint that came down from underneath her pour. So I use the peel and stick for wrapping my surfaces, and I also tape them. And so far I've had minimal run. That is just the nature of the beast when you're doing paint pours of any kind. Even resin is worse. Like if you're doing resin, so if I was doing this resin on top of a table surface, I would do the same exact technique. I would use the peel and stick, because when you use the peel and stick, it's a little bit better than plastic in my opinion, because the peel and stick actually sticks to your surface. And then when you add tape around that as well, it kind of, to me, gives you a double bonded surface of protection that is less likely to get run underneath. Yes, I agree, Teresa. Practice, practice, practice. I've been doing paint pours for just a minute, and I had a desk that it seeped underneath the tape all the way around it. And when you, seems paint pours are thicker, they are a lot harder to get off if you wait for them to dry. So if you fear that your table has any drips on it, right when you're finished doing your pour, go ahead and remove that plastic and wipe it off before it dries, because once it dries, you're gonna have to sand it off. Sorry if I blipped you there for a minute. I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So protect your piece. I use the peel and stick because it actually sticks to the surface, and then I also add a layer of protection with the Gorilla Tape and tape it off. So that is what I do to protect my piece. If you're doing resin over top of a piece, every 15 minutes when I come out there and check it, I also run a foam brush around the edges of my surface that have dripped. And if you do not do that, you will be sanding those drips off for a long time. Take it from experience. I have done this. I did not check it. I kind of set it and forget it. And so I had a lot of drips, and you have to go back and sand those off. And once resin cures, it's very hard and it takes a lot to sand it off. So if you're doing resin over a table, check it. Set your timer for 15 minutes and check it every 15 minutes, and take a foam brush around your edges underneath and clear those edges off underneath, so that you don't have to sand it off later, because it's a lot more work and it can totally be avoided. But so if I'm doing a paint pour and then I know I'm going to do resin over top of it, I do not remove my plastic or my tape from underneath the table. Paint will do the same thing on the table. You still have to check it, but it's not going to dry as hard as resin would. So these are just the things I wanted to talk to you this morning about. So these are different types of pours, and you know, you can play around with it. Paint pouring is a lot of fun. So just play until you get something that you like, and if you don't like it, you know, donate it. I've donated a lot of paint pours that I just wasn't 100% happy with or didn't know what to do with, and so, you know, find something small like these trays. I think this tray right here, one of these just had a price tag on it. I think it was like $1.99 if you bought it at the store. I bought these from a thrift store, and I think I got them for like $1 each. So find something like that at a thrift store, or use something you already have at your house for a tray or something like that, and just play around with it. That's what I would do. That's what I like to do. And just play. Try dirty pours. Look up some videos. I'm going to do some more videos with my new paint line. I'm loving these colors. Licorice is probably my absolute new favorite color in the Country Chic Paint line. I'm not gonna lie, kind of crushing on it pretty hard. Lynn says, that's where my table is headed. Donate. Well, don't write it off just yet, Lynn. You don't know if you're gonna donate it or not. I don't donate stuff until I get it finished, and then, you know, it's one of those things, either you love it when it's done or you don't love it when it's done. But either way, you know, especially if you're going to put resin on it. If you're going to donate it, I donate it before you put resin on it, because resin is expensive. So that's another reason you want to set your timer, make sure, because resin is expensive. And if something doesn't go right in those first hour, that's when you will know and you'll be able to fix it. So you can't sand off of a pour, Lynn. You can't sand off the pour. You can't sand off the pour, but you can definitely pour over a pour. So if you don't like the current pour that you have on your piece, you can pour over that pour as long as it's 100% dry and you haven't top coated it with anything. You can do a new pour right over top of that pour. So it might have some valleys and stuff like that, but to me, I found if my pieces, if you put resin over top of it, those valleys fill in anyways, you can't even see them. So, I mean, a couple of these pieces had like small valleys, because, you know, the color differences, but you can't see the valleys when you resin it, because resin is auto leveling and the paint pretty much auto levels. So between the combination of those two, but yeah, if you don't like your paint pour and it's a table that's worth keeping, just re-pour it. Pick different colors that you like. Good morning, Valerie. So yeah, I would just re-pour it. That's what I would do if you don't like it. Hey, lady. Oh, good morning, Val. Good morning, Sue. I don't know. Facebook is wonky. It's not telling everybody when I'm going live, but I'm live. I'm almost done with my live, though. I did want to show you real quick, though, because I just wanted to show you this wax real quick, because, you know, I'm like addicted to this black wax right now. So if you can see this side, if you can see how dull that looks, and this side, if you can see, actually right there might be a better comparison. If you can see just how shiny and shimmery and beautiful that is. So I just did one coat on the entire piece with the licorice color. If you can see here, this is just one coat, and it has kind of, there's a little bit of color showing through of on the black. It's not perfect, but when I use the black wax over top of it, which you can see how shiny and beautiful that is, it hides anything underneath. When you use black over black, it blends it all, and you can see how shimmery and shiny. I wanted something to be more, seems this is kind of like a, you know, a more, what's the word? Modern look. Thank you, Val. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Yes, Teresa, you need the black wax in your life. So anyways, you can see how shiny it is and how pretty. Definitely, I wanted these to be more shimmery and shiny rather than flat because they are more modern looking. So, and I'm going to finish that off with all of these. So here's one more recap of my pours. These we're going to call, this one's kind of a clean and a dirty mix, kind of ish. This one I would call a clean pour. This one is definitely a clean pour. And this one is a dirty pour. So if you have any questions about pours, I would be happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do this for fun. This is my fun place. So if you have any questions, or if you have any questions about resin, I would be happy to answer those. And thank you again, Valerie. That's very kind. I am loving these color combinations, especially these where they're just so crisp. I mean, look at how crisp those are, and they stand off against each other. It's really hard with that light. I'm loving them. I'm loving them. I did these just for fun, bought them for next to nothing, and thought if I don't like them when you pay $1 for something or wherever it is, I mean, by the time I would not have covered these in resin if I didn't love the way the pour turned out, because resin is expensive, and when you add resin to it, you've made a commitment. You're gonna have to get something back out of it because resin is expensive. So if I didn't like these, I would not have coated them with resin. I probably would have coated them with a top coat and donated them. But I did love them. I love every single one of them. So I kept them. But thank you all for popping on this morning. Sorry about my impromptu live. And I look forward to seeing you all again. And if you have any questions about paint pouring or anything else, or if you'd like to try Country Chic Paint, please come try Country Chic Paint. I have every single color available in my booth space. I do have some of the wax available. I'm telling you, I don't know if you can see how much I have left in this. I have been using the mess out of this wax. I'm using this wax on everything. Stuff I didn't think I'd even use the black wax on. I am using this black wax on everything. It looks beautiful over light colors and dark colors. I love it. And I was never a fan of these types of waxes before, so this is kind of new. But anyways, I hope you all have a great day, and happy creating this week, guys. I'm looking forward to creating some amazing things this week, or hoping to create some amazing things this week. Thank you, Val, for catching the replay. I just talked about the different types of pours. If you know the proper name for this type of pour, you can please drop it. We're calling it a clean pour because we don't really know what to call it. So to me, I'm just going to call it a clean pour because the other one is a dirty pour. So there's probably a proper term for that. I'll try to figure that out too. And I will attach the link for the Pro Marine in here. And if you all have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And I hope you all have a great, great day.